Good morning.
Hi,
Uh,
friend.
Hi. Wow, what a week it's been.
What a week. It feels like it's been more than a week.
Oh yeah, it's been
But
2 weeks since we've seen each other, and just so everybody knows, we were off last week, which was probably a good thing because if I would have been screaming the entire time based on everything that's been going
Mhm.
down. But so you know what we're going to get into today, we're going to talk about the Taylor Swift wedding. Of course, we have to because Lauren had an interesting take on it and
I
an
pissed off the
interesting.
Swifties.
You pissed
I
off the
just
Swifties.
I
Yes, you
pissed off
did.
the Swifties. Mhm.
We got to talk about the Platner video, a little bit of Love Island because I've just started watching it. The Patriot Front, of course, a little bit of FIFA World Cup. And on a sad note, we have to talk about Nolan Wells
Mm.
and his family and everything that is happening with that case. And Venezuela seems like it was forever ago, but I believe it was only been a few weeks. And so we'll have some updates there. So, before we get into all of that, you, I want to say famously predicted, but probably not famous, but Lauren famously predicted that she wasn't going to get married in Madison Square Garden, that it was just a diversion, potentially a diversion.
I eat my words. She got unless I'm actually not convinced that that was the actual wedding. I think that what a
Okay.
lot of couples will do is they will privately, quietly have a ceremony and then they'll do a secondary ceremony. So but if it was to each their own, good for them. With 1,000 of their nearest and dearest. I
Their nearest and dearest at Madison Square Garden, where apparently celebrities are being tracked and rated on a scale of, I think, high risk to low risk. Did you see that article in Wired?
No.
Oh, so the owner of Madison Square Garden apparently is a big Trumper,
Great.
which shouldn't be
That
shocking.
tracks.
And Madison Square Garden has been the site of, I believe, Nazi rallies, both past and, if you want to count that right before the election, the one with Trump and
Mhm.
the craziness, that the dark red and black
Yeah.
colors. It's it's got
Mhm.
bad vibes, right? And so, in addition to you calling it potentially tacky if it were going to be there,
Oh, yeah.
uh, it was also, why would you want to put so much money into the pocket of a man who is tracking gay celebrities?
Oy.
And
It I
go
saw somebody compare it to it's kind of like the stadium version of getting married at a plantation.
was gonna say that. I was like, she might as well just have gotten married at a plantation.
Yeah. Yeah. I stand by. It was tacky. It was tacky as fuck. I Because it's a spectacle. There's a moment when you go past this is a luxury event where you are focused on making sure that your guests are comfortable and it's beautiful. And one of the most common things that was always said to me by my clients was that they wanted understated elegance. And there was definitely nothing understated about this. And that term kind of makes me crazy now. But looking at the way that they put this together, not a single thing that they did was necessary to the celebration of their relationship. It was just how many people can we gather in one place that have notoriety was what it felt like from watching it on the outside. And people don't like that opinion.
Well, no, I think, can we watch your video really quick, and then I want to talk about the surveillance state that that exists, and her willingness to participate in that surveillance state. And at a time when ICE is running rampant in New York City as
Yes.
well, she had an executive who has a contract, a very hefty contract with ICE. And so people are like, oh my God, Taylor, she's so amazing. She's so progressive. but then has no problem with having somebody who is profiting off of the pain of Black and brown people in America at her wedding. And I know there were no plus ones. I heard everybody was, invited and to be there. So let's watch your clip that I don't know if is this the one that we'll run it. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
This message is for Taylor Allison Swift and Taylor Allison Swift only. As a former wedding planner, getting married at Madison Square Garden is wild. It is absolute crazy work. But you know what is even crazier? This shit. This has been up for 12 hours. It was posted by the official White House TikTok account. What the actual fuck, Taylor? What is this? You are a litigious bitch, and we know that you will come after anybody who even breathes on your catalog in a way that you don't approve of. And yet, this shit has been sitting out for 12 hours, which tells me you're giving tacit approval to that orange motherfucker. And as a card-carrying member of the Swifties, somebody who went to the Eras Tour, I'm gonna have to turn in my Swiftie card. And also, as a former wedding planner, I hope you have the tacky day that you deserve, because this is bullshit. People are dying. People cannot afford healthcare. People can't afford diapers. And yes, you have donated money, but also, what the fuck?
So has she sued yet? Has her team sued?
Well, I just checked TikTok, and that video is still up. It has 1 point something million views, 1.4 million. 1.4 million views. So it's still sitting there. And I find it so interesting on a couple. People were mad that I called her a bitch, a litigious bitch. I call myself a bitch. Like,
I had a feeling people were going to take issue with that in particular. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, fine. But like, she is a litigious bitch. She comes after her own fans who are inspired by somebody Josh just pointed out that the video on TikTok by the White House has fewer views than my video of criticism about it. Which,
well, the Swifties are angrier at you than they are at Trump. They're angry at you than they are at ICE. And so it just, I feel like this entire episode, I mean, not just because you and I, you're white, I'm Black, but this entire episode is going to be about race, because it feels like in the last week or so in America, especially surrounding the 250th anniversary, that we are not in the post-racial America that a lot of white women would like to believe that we are.
Well, and white women keep carrying water for the patriarchy and for white supremacy. And it's that proximity to, they think that it's safety. And we talked about it weeks ago when white women within the Trump administration, they are the first to get thrown under the bus. So it's an illusion of safety. But white women, if you go back to when people were enslaved, the way that white women participated in that, they weren't neutral and just sitting on their porch drinking tea. There was nefariousness to it. And I think that we're seeing that just manifest in different ways now. And the patriarchy is wrapped up in it. And it's just, there's also an infantilization of white women, and particularly Taylor.
She's a billionaire.
Yeah. And I think, like, she knows her legal team is all over it when there are people who are using any of her intellectual property for their like teeny little Etsy shops because they're a fan of hers and they want to engage in Swiftie culture in that way. She shuts it down super fast. Notoriously, she also sent some legal documents to Olivia Rodrigo. She didn't officially sue her, but attorneys negotiated, and she ended up getting a writing credit on one of Olivia Rodrigo's songs because Olivia said in an interview that she was inspired by a chanting moment in Cruel Summer. And so she used a similar type of chanting style in one of her songs. Taylor's attorneys, they were able to get her a co-writing credit on that. So now she's profiting off of Olivia Rodrigo. So like, this is a woman who notoriously goes after people for even breathing on her intellectual property incorrectly in a way she doesn't approve of. And yet the White House, this is not the first time they've used her intellectual property. She hasn't said shit. And now it's been a week since that's been up and not a damn thing. So everybody who was like, it's 12 hours, it's her wedding day, give her time, let her breathe. Okay.
Yeah,
How
I
are
mean, I
we
doubt
doing
she
now?
was on social media watching your videos on her wedding day anyway. And even Theo Vaughn of all people, condemned the White House when they used clips of him for one of their deportation videos. So if Theo Vaughn, a bro who helped put Trump into the White House, can speak out against Trump, I'm pretty sure Taylor Swift can. And the fact that she isn't is pretty telling. So sorry, Swifties.
Yeah.
If you are progressive, you're going to have to give up Taylor Swift just like I gave up Kanye West. I gave him up. I had to give him. I had to let go. And
it's a thing. Like I think there's also there's a conversation too around like, are we separating the art from the artist and how can we do that? And it feels like in this time, the other bone that I have to pick with her is she intentionally brought so many people in. Like, this is how I started listening to her music, because she made a whole ass documentary where she talked about how important it was for her to use her voice and her platform for politics. And she was talking about going after Marsha Blackburn and speaking out against Trump and the different things that she was doing to push back against the patriarchy. And yet, like, here we are. And the last time she said anything about politics was when she endorsed Kamala right after the debate in September of 2024. And so much devastation and destruction has happened to our country since then. And she's remained silent. And in fact, I find it's not just the silence, it's the silence plus the flaunting of just this incredibly grotesque amount of wealth in a time of such income inequality and suffering. And I just find it distasteful is not even the right word. And if you're like cheering for it, and if you're sliding into my DMs with more venom and aggression than the incels that I have pissed off in the last year and a half, then that says something. Like, I haven't gotten this kind of notification blow up since I pissed off incels, and before that, since I started getting death threats from MAGA. Like, and now Swifties. What is
well, it's what the extent that people will go to protect the patriarchy, to protect white supremacy, because at the end of the day, that is what this is all about. And she is a billionaire and that represents something. And what's the point of having billions of dollars? What's the point of having fuck you money if you don't continue to uphold your values and say fuck you to the people who are destroying what you supposedly care so much about? But I guess now that she is married to Travis Kelce, who I'm not going to call him a mediocre white male because I don't know enough about him, but I'm going to say she has decided that she would like to uphold whatever it is that he represents and the people around them represent, which I think is a good time to shift into. I should be like, I want to Graham Platner.
Yeah, we can go there. Yeah,
we got to talk about Graham Platner. If you could, you and I, the minute that video dropped, we texted each other. I think we have that screenshot here. I asked you, I was like, can we please put up that screenshot?
Absolutely. I love that everybody's going to get to see inside our text thread.
Yes, this is how we text each other. I clipped off the nickname that I had for I here it is.
Yeah.
I was like, have you seen this? So I I had never been a Platner fan. I had never followed him. Obviously, I think one of the first things I heard about him was the Reddit comment about whether or not Black people tip. And at that point, I was like, oh, I hate you already.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of stopped paying attention to him. But when this video dropped, and I wasn't even going to say anything about him, but the video dropped, and I watched it. And within 30 seconds, I was like, oh.
I couldn't get through the whole thing. Could you?
I not in one take. No, I had to take breaks.
Yeah.
It was here, actually, before we talk about it, let's roll the first part of the video so that people know what we're talking about if they haven't seen it yet.
Hey everyone, it's Cram Platner here. I think as many of you know, over the past couple days, I have faced some very serious allegations, and I just want to make it clear, this is all false. The things that have been claimed did not happen. It's not real. It has placed an immense amount of weight on me as I think about what needs to happen now. Amy and I are regular people. We were not looking for this experience. We were not looking to get into politics. We had no desire to run for office. I just want you to think about like what you would do as a regular person in a position where a much larger world, large forces were working against you personally to accuse you of the worst thing that a person could do, and it was not remotely true. I learned about this through press inquiries, with no time to truly respond, no time for investigations before a corporate media system and the political establishment got to act as judge, jury, and executioner. Accusations are supposed to be the beginning of things, not the end.
If you didn't hate him for the Nazi tattoo, you should hate him for that not apology video. I'm sorry.
No,
that was
there's no apology.
Dropout. There was no taking accountability for actions. What did you see? What triggered you when you started watching that?
So, as a survivor of abuse and sexual violence, there is something about certain people, and it has never been wrong. That gut instinct for me has never been wrong. I don't always pick up on it, but when I do pick up on it, I have never been wrong. There is something in a tone of voice, in a phrasing of sentences that just hits in that, oh, this person is not safe. I had that feeling about him kind of early on, and I just thought, I'm glad I don't live in Maine. But it is, watching that is, I don't know, it's troubling. It's hard. There's something in the phrasing and the tone of voice and the way that he speaks, that I have not a single ounce of question about whether or not these women have told the truth.
Oh, absolutely. Watching him gaslight in a video that he could have used for anything else, watching him try to gaslight not just the woman who very credibly accused him, but the people of Maine, as he clearly is making a play to try to stay in the race, because the news reported, oh, he dropped out. No, he didn't drop out. He suspended campaign operations. He hasn't dropped out yet. He has to do that by Monday, 5 p.m. local time. And I don't know that he is going to do this. It feels like he's very much holding the people of Maine hostage. But watching him play the victim somehow, as if the establishment is coming after him after all of the things that he has said and done, the ick doesn't even go, doesn't even fully express how I felt when I watched it. I actually physically kept shuddering as if I was trying to shake his energy off of me. It was the most amount of time I had actually engaged with any of his content because I wasn't following him. And I think partly for what you said is where you get that sort of gut feeling. And I think I quietly disengaged from that entire campaign without even really realizing it. Like I am perpetually online. I am on multiple screens at a time. And so I'm following races all over the country. And that particular race, I disengaged. And so I said in a video, I think that, Maine really dodged a bullet, because this is what I'm talking about when I say the danger of the mediocre white male, because often he's the kind of guy that you think, oh, maybe he's here to be the protector, right? The protector of things. That's how he's kind of, I'm going to protect you. But much in the same way that Trump would come in and say, I'm the protector of women, but just in the progressive, Platner does it in the progressive sense. And so the man in the bear, choosing the bear every single time because of men like Platner.
Every single time. Well, and I think furthermore, when I was existing in my abusive relationship, I was convinced that he was the only person who could protect me, that he was the only person who could understand me, that everybody else in my life didn't see me the way that he saw me. So I isolated from everyone else, and anybody who tried to intervene and say, "Hey, I'm worried about you. This doesn't feel safe." I pushed them away, and I isolated from my friends and my family because I didn't want to hear the feedback and have to face the potential that I had put all of my trust and all of my eggs in one basket, and that basket was actually just sand. It was never actually a basket. It was something that was going to fail. And actually, it was something where it was a bomb. It was something that was going to hurt me and was actively hurting me. And I didn't want to see it, because facing that is a hard thing. You have to look at really deep layers about, why did I trust this politician in a way that I am launching into people's comment sections with such vitriol, and I'm doubling down for a rapist? Like, that goes beyond having to examine the politician and the person and the man. That goes into having to examine yourself, and people don't want to do that.
This is a perfect time to pivot into the Love Island clip, because women very much, we in society has been conditioned to give men a pass, mediocre men a pass, and push away the people who try to warn us. And so I've never watched Love Island before. A couple of weeks ago, my daughter started watching, and I was like, oh my God, I want to see the bell hooks feminist critique of Love Island now, because it feels like it's all of our societal problems on a show, on display. And I think everybody needs to watch it and analyze it through that lens. So if we can run that clip real
and to
quick.
Table said, I don't watch Love Island, so this is going to be me reacting, and like, I'm
in
not
real time to a Love Island clip. So my initial reaction when I saw that clip, I was like, oh, that's America wanting to believe and wanting to put trust in some of these mediocre leaders, be they white men or what have you, and having people try to warn, being one of the people who are trying to warn people, like, God, this isn't it. And then, and also the people who are like stuck in MAGA, who want to believe that Trump is going to fulfill all of those campaign promises, that he's going to bring their grocery prices down, that he's going to bring the cost of fuel down, that inflation's going to come down, that he's their protector. Are you convinced now that Love Island might be?
I might have to start watching Love Island. Wow. But I think that it's also a really good representation of the thing that's going to save us as a country will be the energy of the women's restroom at a bar. Like, late at night when all of the women gather around somebody uh who is hurting and somebody who needs protection, and we all hover. And ironically, uh elephants, even though the elephant is representative of the Republican Party, um elephants will get in a circle around somebody who, like, a smaller elephant or an elephant who is in labor, and the female elephants will make a circle and they will kick up dust so that it creates this protective shield around the elephant or elephants in the middle. And so I find the women in the restroom at the bar in the middle of the night, like, we are kicking up the dust. So it's metaphors on top of metaphors.
I love this. Women protecting women. I was at a restaurant and my daughter and I overheard a date at the next table. And when I say overheard, it was just him talking the entire time. And she was just nodding and nodding. And he just kept going on and on and on and on. And I was like, this is absolutely insane. And so when the woman went to the bathroom, my daughter, not knowing her at all, just went in there and said, "You deserve better." And I said to my daughter,
That's amazing.
It is amazing. I think she was like, at the time, she was maybe 14, 15. And I was like, that's the energy that women need, because you might have saved that woman from a lifetime of having to listen to this man drone on. And so listen to women, believe women, because we're the ones who are going to protect each other at the end of the day. But yeah, no,
and it's
I was
hard to
surprised by
listen.
Love Island.
Sometimes it's hard. Like, it's hard. I've watched it happen in front of my eyes where somebody's saying, "Oh no, like, this is bad. You cannot go home with this person. This is not safe. This is not good." And the woman in the abusive relationship cannot see that she's in an abusive relationship, and the person who's talking to her is just not able to break through. So I don't know, what do you think it looks like from that context? How do we get our fellow Americans to be primed enough so that they can even recognize that they're in a relationship that they need to be kind of off ramped out of?
That's a really good question, because I think it comes down to awareness of what abuse looks like. I think it was something that the Trump administration is trying to obscure. I remember in the first administration, they removed many of the definitions of domestic violence from the DOJ website. And so in limiting it to just physical abuse, and I think maybe emotional, but there's also symbolic abuse and financial abuse, and there's coercion. And so this is language that applies not to just romantic relationships, but can exist in professional relationships and in relationships with our elected officials. And so I think more than anything, arming our kids with the language of understanding what abuse looks like, so you can spot it as it's happening. I think that's the hard lesson that a lot of us have had to learn. And it took me into my 30s to go, that oops, didn't know that that's what that looks like. And it can be anything from trying to control how you spend your money. It can be controlling where you want to go or spend the evening if you're expected to check in 5 or 6 times. There's so many red flags that I think our young people in particular, we can help make them aware of what it looks like. And so they don't go, "Oh no, it's because he loves me," or it's because, and then I think the other thing, love bombing and Brett, we've talked about this before on the show that Trump is the ultimate love bomber in chief, the over promising and under delivering. And then I want to apply it to people like Platner. And people like Fetterman, who looks like he might flip Republican at any moment now. He's doing joint fundraising with a Republican right now. And these are people that seemed safe. But
well, it wasn't until 1993 that marital rape was even a thing, like nationally recognized. It was legal for husbands to rape their wives. Like that was not considered a crime. And 1993 is not that long ago. I mean, I know my kids would say that it was the 1900s and make me feel so old.
Kids love to do that.
They really do. But I think it feels like we are backsliding. We are in a place where it can't possibly be wrong if I am married to that person, or if this is a person I once trusted. Like there's this weird mental gymnastics that we do. And I think it's ultimately a survival strategy. And maybe part of our job here as the women in the restroom at the end of the night, we have to let people know that it's safe to start to consider an alternative. And it starts there.
One woman I don't want to run into in the restroom, or maybe I do, Candace Owens.
Oh God.
She's still around, unfortunately, and apparently feigning confusion now about who Trump is and what he represented from the get-go.
Is she just completely, did she lose any sense of self-awareness, or has she ever had it?
Yeah, I don't know that she had, but I'm gonna run this clip and let's talk about the Candace Owens of the world.
The person that I think I placed stock in was Trump, and we got played. I mean, there's no other way to say it. It's kind of shocking the ways that he lied. And so you have to then go, why? Trump desperately, by any means necessary, wanted to win again. And his entire life's mission then transformed into, I will do anything to win again, including making a deal with the devil. You don't take $300 million from people who run Vegas and tell them no about anything.
How much wealth?
Honey, who ever thought that he was like that? This was the. Really?
I mean, she's lying. She's lying. She's clearly lying. She's lying. She's lying. She's just lying. She's a lying liar who freaking lies.
Either that, or it's just so deeply disingenuous and she's dumb. Which one? Are you lying or are you dumb?
It can be both. They're not mutually exclusive. One can be a lying dumb. I try not to use the bitch.
I mean,
I try not to.
I'll use it in reference to Taylor Swift. That feels like my lane.
I think once they become a billionaire, I think you can. I think that's actually the rule. Once you can say that. Unless it's Beyonce, you will never say anything harsh about Beyonce.
Something that's interesting is, like, I know a few people who have run into some very prominent Republicans in media recently, and they were like, this is the conversation. These are the things that I wanted to say to that person, but I didn't say them because they were really nice in real life. They're all really nice in real life. Ted Bundy once washed dishes in somebody's kitchen without murdering them. And also, I'm sure the racist white ladies sitting on their porches drinking tea were also very nice if you were a person who approached them in a certain kind of social setting. But our
desire to be liked or to avoid conflict is going to kill us all. Like, and I think that's the thing, to bring it back to the Taylor Swift thing, is trying to coexist in this world where Taylor Swift gets to have this like multi-million-dollar wedding, and at the same time, the Patriot Front is marching through the streets of DC and terrorizing people. And that's happening in the same world within a 3-hour train ride of each other. So can we roll the clip of the Patriot Front? I'm sure everybody's seen it, but I want you to know what we're talking about.
Hey, America, real quick, what the was that? It's been about 24 hours since I saw a photo that made me go fact check, because I was like, there's no way this is real. I don't want to spread disinformation. There's no way that a bunch of white supremacists, or I'm sorry, as I like to call them, white mediocritists, because nobody who's supreme would actually be out marching around Washington in khakis and masks on the 4th of July. Apparently it takes me about 24 hours to process the rage I feel at the hijacking of what has already been hijacked. Like, can't they just be happy with what they've got right now? Apparently not. I'm going to spin this and say, I think this is a good thing, because it quiets all the people who are like, oh my God, America, not a racist country. We don't have anything that we need to work on. We don't need to learn accurate history. We don't need to educate ourselves about what marginalized groups have brought to the country. Not just suffered in America, but brought to the country to make it great.
So have people learned that their lesson? I'm curious, what are the white people saying when the Black people aren't around this past week? Has anybody said to you, wow, that Patriot Front thing?
I say things like that, and it like, it'll quieter. But I do have I have like a little pocket of friends. Like, I showed up for 4th of July and the host was wearing a t-shirt that said no human is illegal on stolen land. So like, you can, but then like, if you go out beyond those pockets, nobody's talking about it. Like, even people who you think might be ideologically aligned, it's clear that when I bring up certain topics, I am making the other white people uncomfortable, and they would maybe rather me talk about the tree that fell on my house the other day. Like, we would love to talk about the what kind of damage happened to the roof, and like, okay, that's interesting, but also like, there are these other things. So it's,
you know, it's interesting because, and they want to talk about the roof because they're like, oh, how did you solve that? How can I prevent that from happening to my roof? And so applying that same logic to America, when we criticize things that are happening, and it's not because we don't quote unquote love our country, it's because in order to fix something, we have to diagnose what is wrong and be honest with ourselves about what is wrong. And when Patriot Front is marching through the streets of DC and not a single Republican speaks out against it vehemently, the fact that they even felt comfortable enough to do so, the fact that there was no law enforcement that decided to sweep them up, that there's no investigation, that there's nothing, shows that there is a problem that needs to be diagnosed and rectified, and that it is systemic. And again, like, this is what happens when men, mediocre white men, have been told over and over and again that the world is theirs. It's a sense of entitlement that if, and they have right now, they're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
They've been doing pretty, like, so why march?
I think that there's a certain pocket of white people who, a large pocket of maybe like all of the pockets, they don't think that this is a them problem. They don't recognize that this is anything that has to do, they weren't marching. They aren't part of Patriot Front. So it's not a problem for them. And I think it even goes as far as, I remember talking to people after January 6th, and they didn't recognize that their support of Trump and that their support of certain politicians fed fed what happened on January 6th. They just thought because they weren't personally there, it wasn't a them problem. It's a you problem. So, and also, it's a you problem for overreacting and getting upset because why can't you be the Stepford wife, white woman who's supposed to people please and play nice and be liked, and you're not likable when you say, hey, there's some racist bullshit that's going on, or there's some rapey bullshit that's going on. Let's have some uncomfortable conversations and figure out how to talk to our children. I'm raising two white boys in the Midwest. It is on me as their mother to have conversations that might make them uncomfortable, might make me uncomfortable. We have uncomfortable conversations about drugs, about sex. I don't enjoy that, but they're necessary. And I think those conversations need to start to take up more space and talk about a wider range of issues.
Well, it's because if we don't have those uncomfortable conversations, people can get hurt. And we understand that when it comes to drugs, when it comes to drinking, and having these conversations with our teenagers. And people are okay with that discomfort. I think part of the reason white women, white moms in particular, might not be comfortable having the race conversation with their kids is because they know at the end of the day, the law will protect their child from whatever danger happens. So it's not their child who is in danger. Maybe something happens to a friend, and this is a lead-in. We're going to talk about the Nolan Wells story, but they know that at the end of the day, the law is more than likely going to protect their child. So it does become somebody else's problem. But is that the world that we want to live in? Because, and I say this to people who I want them to think about it even from a selfish standpoint. America's problems right now are because we can't get past the white supremacy, because we can't get past the legacy of genocide and enslaving people in the past. And so the table issues that people pretend that the election was about, those issues exist because America spends and invests so much time in trying to repress everyone who a straight white male. And so it does affect you. It may not affect you directly, but it does affect you. And so I feel like people need to understand that more. And yes, you are raising two white males in the Midwest. And, we were having this conversation before we got on in talking about the Nolan Wells case. What it looks like to protect our children. And, I'm a mom of an 18-year-old girl. She's biracial, she's Latina and Black, but Latina, with a Argentine father. So he's white presenting. And these are all issues that we've had to confront while she's growing up, because she's had groups of friends that were mostly white, and she's had groups of friends that were a mix, depending on which school she was at. And there's definitely a nervousness that I feel because I grew up in suburban western suburbs of Chicago, and as I think there were maybe 300 Black kids in my whole school, like 3,000 students, but only 300 Black people. And so the experience of being the only one is very isolating, but also very dangerous.
Absolutely. I think one of the things, as I've been trying to figure out what are the types of conversations, and it's not a one and done conversation. It has to be a conversation over the course of weeks and years that we're having with our kids, just as we do with any difficult topic. I talk about consent in different contexts. And now I'm thinking about how am I going to, I have a 14-year-old who's going into high school, and what are the different things that I want him to know, building on the lessons that we've already learned. But one of those points is you might not be the one who's going to cause a friend harm or leave behind a friend. You might not be that person, but there are other people around you who could be that person. And so one of the things that I think that we need to be teaching our white children, and I don't know if this is going to get me canceled or flack, but I think we need to teach our kids to use that privilege in a way that intentionally keeps their friends safe, keeps their friends close. Like, this is not, it's not something that they can just like shrug their shoulders and be like, well, I wouldn't do it, so I'm just gonna go off and do my own thing. Like, no. If you are in a space where you have one friend who is Black, who is in this environment, it is part of your responsibility as a friend and as a friend with privilege to make sure that you are using that privilege and using your friendship to keep your friends safe. Like, kind of like the buddy system. Like, I want to make sure that I have a woman with me who I know is going to look out for me and make sure that if somebody slips me something into my drink, that like they're right there to get me out of there. Like, it's these things that we do, and we need to start expanding those conversations toward our kids when it comes to race. And yeah, it's not comfortable, and yeah, we're going to get it wrong. Like, I don't know if that is the right or wrong approach, but it's in the trying, it's in the fail fast, and find the way to teach our kids to do better, because if they don't know better, they're not going to do better.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you do that. And my thought is, when we're living in a world where uh, systemic racism and explicit racism has really been given permission to exist. I mean, they've ended discrimination cases. Trump instructed his DOJ to end many discrimination cases with the EEOC and other organizations. And so how, as a mom, do you talk to your white children if they're living in a world where they're being told that race doesn't matter, that racism doesn't exist? And so these kids are in an environment where they might truly, I mean, it's wild to think, but they might truly not understand that their Black friend is less safe in this world than they are.
I think that that's exactly right. I think because that is not something that is actively being taught. There's this whole idea of like, I don't see color, and you need to see color, because that is how we like to pretend that racism isn't there, to pretend that white supremacy isn't the construct in which we are all operating. If you pretend that that doesn't exist, it's like pretending that your house is not on fire while it burns right in front of you, because it's just something that you don't want to see. It's something that is uncomfortable, because you're going to have to grapple with the fact that you're losing everything and you need to call the fire department, and then there's going to be water everywhere and you're going to have to rebuild. And so the house is burning whether or not you acknowledge it. And the only way that you can stem the destruction of it is to acknowledge it, and then to get help, and then to, even if you don't do it, if you can't stop the whole house from burning down, you can maybe keep part of it. I think that what I've seen from my fellow white mothers, there's just it's still very much a like, well, I don't see color. We don't need to talk about it, because I'm teaching my kids that like I find that I don't think that that is a productive way to combat racism, is to pretend that it doesn't exist. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, not when Black boys are being killed or dying under suspicious circumstances, and the media is treating it in the way that it is. There's a report this morning on Good Morning America, and Nolan Wells' family is there with their attorney. And I want to play that really quickly so that we can talk about what they're experiencing and how to keep our kids safe.
You say you have Nolan's cell phone and messages were deleted. How could you tell messages were deleted?
Well, his parents got the phone back, and that's something that's important, Michael, because they tracked this phone on Life 360.
So Life 360, but when I received the phone call from Warren, I immediately called my friend Tashima, and I said, hey, have you guys seen Nolan? Because her two sons, Jalen and Javon, like they grew up together. They played city league sports together. When they got into school, they played sports together. And so she was like, hey, like, okay, the boys were pulling up the location from Snapchat. So the Snapchat location looks completely different than the Life 360 location. So when I pulled up Life 360, it was different. It was showing everywhere the phone had been. Like I was like, well, it's showing that he's back on land. Like he's like, but no, he didn't come back with us.
Well, how were you able to get the phone?
So we tracked it, and my friend Tashima went and picked it up.
It wasn't like they said we got his phone, they tracked it. And that highlights all these contradictions.
I remember when Life 360 first came out, and I think I was one of the first users because I wanted to track my daughter to make sure she was safe, right? When we track our kids, we use tech. It's not about controlling them. It's because we live in a world where it feels increasingly unsafe. As a mom, my heart breaks for his family because they were doing the right things, meaning they knew who their kids' friends were. They knew where their kid was. They were doing all of the right things, and their child did not come home. And so, and race is 100% a factor. And I know a lot of people, and it's a factor in how the case is being handled. It's a factor in how the sheriff's department hasn't been forthright about what was missing, like the cell phone not being immediately handed over to the family, in the sense that these kids, they had the phone. If they had the phone, they shouldn't have had to ask for the phone. Like that doesn't even make any sense. And so there's so many contradictions. And I don't know, it just hurts my heart that we live in a world where you can't even feel safe letting your kids hang out with I look at the pictures, I'm like, they seem to be fine kids.
Yeah.
But obviously something's not fine there.
Yeah. It's unspeakable. And it reminds me of the way that white men protect each other in and I'm using this analogy for any of the particularly white women who might be watching this, that might be thinking, yeah, but my kid would never. Like I'm not raising that kind of child. Okay. But let's look at the way that society and the legal system protects white men. Brett Kavanaugh, for example, he's on the Supreme Court and had very credible allegations about sexual assault, and everybody rallied around him, women included, to protect him and elevate him. So it is a similar construct that we are operating within, where white men basically get protection and free reign to not face consequences of their actions. And it is on us as mothers to raise a different generation with a different sense of awareness of the world that they exist within. And so I think if there are any women who don't understand the grief and the complexity around, it's not just that somebody didn't come home. There are many, many layers to this. And I think it's important to recognize that as white folks, we're not safe. Like, trust needs to be earned. And in the same way that consent can be revoked, trust can be revoked. And it has to be an ongoing process where you are not just passively on the sidelines. You have to actively take part in dismantling the systems, because as a group, we're just not safe. There's it and that's a hard reality to face. But if we don't, it's not going to get any better.
And everything that we've talked about today has that through line of safety. America is not safe, and it's because of white supremacy. Schools are not safe because there are mostly young white males shooting up schools. And so this idea that somehow you're going to be protected from that simply because of not being a target doesn't mean you're not going to eventually be a target in the real sense of the word. Like, part of the freedom that I feel when I'm living abroad is knowing that I'm not going to get shot up in a movie theater. I can just go to the movies.
I was in Scotland and Ireland when Uvalde happened, and I found myself, like, as we were in Scotland packing up to leave early the next morning to go to Ireland when the news came through, and I was in a bathroom in Dublin, and I pulled myself into, like, just cry and process. And we were getting ready to go back to the United States in a couple of days, and I didn't want to bring my kids back. And I remember crying in this bathroom, and like, Ireland, it was like a weird old, like, co-ed bathroom where there was no privacy at all. And there were some older Irish folks who pulled me into a hug when they saw me crying, and they were like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm okay, but I'm an American, and there was just another school shooting, and I don't want to bring my kids home." And immediately they knew what they knew. There was a lot, like, an outpouring of understanding. And we as a country, I feel like, if we aren't going to face these really awful, horrific things, I don't know. I feel kind of like I'm, like, in the bathroom crying in Ireland. Like, it's a lot. But
Well, it's sad, Lauren. It's overwhelming. And, we call this show America, You Got This, partly because it's almost like a self-help show, but also about trying to thrive in a world that has systems that are built to repress us. And I'm now on the outside looking in, and I have to tell you, it is easier to thrive outside of America. It, especially as a Black woman, it is easier for me to exist outside of America. I lived in Argentina for 8 years. And even though Argentina is getting a ton of well-deserved flack for being racist during the World Cup, I have to tell you, my life as a Black woman was easier in Argentina than it was in the US. When I'm in the US, I can feel the racism when I walk into a room. I can feel it when I walk into Home Goods. I often, especially when it's been a long time that I've been out of the country, when I walk into the US, when I cross through immigration, I cry because I can feel it. It's palpable, and it's something that you don't actually realize until you leave the US for the first time. And I first left when I was 14. My mom emptied out her savings account to send me on this Tale of Two Cities tour. And we went to, it was like a student trip. We went to Paris and in London. And it was the first time I felt this sense of, like, one, oh, there's Black people everywhere. Yay, amazing. But also this sort of sense of relief. And you don't realize it until you actually leave. And I think a lot of our American exceptionalism is based on and premised on this idea that people are never going to leave, so they're not going to know. They're not going to know. You're going to have no idea of what life might feel like for you, because if you find out what life could feel like, then you're going to want that back home. You're going to demand that in the US. And so part of what I want to do is to introduce people to the concept that we can have better. We have the money to do it. We just have to stop spending it on bombs and bombing children. And we could actually create the life in America where everyone can thrive, regardless of gender, regardless of sex, regardless of color. Like, we could all thrive.
God, the bar is really in hell.
It's so fucking low.
It's so low.
We had a guy with a Nazi tattoo as a Democratic. What?
No. Well,
like, in what world?
I think the other layer to this too is that white people, white women in particular, like to see themselves as victims and to have that kind of coddling. And there needs to be a pivot of like, oh no, we're the threat, actually. Like, and so how do you dismantle that in a way that, like, Graham Platner needs to recognize that he is the threat. Like, he's viewing himself and positioning himself as a victim in this scenario when he's the one that's caused harm. And he knew very well that there was a woman who experienced his interactions with her as rape, and still had the audacity to run for elected office and put his entire state and our country in harm's way, and thought that he was justified in doing so. And so I think if we as white people start to examine ourselves through that lens, maybe we can start to get past the bars in hell moment and start building something that's more equitable and beautiful and safe for everyone. But wow, some days does it feel hard to try to crack those.
Well, we got to want it. We got to want it. And just like in any self-help situation, until you hit rock bottom, sometimes it's not enough, right? And so I feel like America, I thought we'd hit rock bottom many times over, but apparently we're willing to go even lower. And so, you know, I'm an eternal optimist because I see no other way of existing on this planet. Otherwise, I would have left this planet long ago. But I have to tell myself, you know what? We're toddlers. Humanity, we're babies. And America in particular is a toddler country, very young. And maybe we're in that arrogant toddler phase where we think we can just do whatever we want. We can, policy-wise, say that we're going to take Greenland. We can cut off trade with Spain abruptly. We can call the FIFA president and say, hey, let our birthright citizen play. Like, what? It's insanity, y'all. We're way over time, but I do
want to acknowledge, I think that what we're talking about, the through line here, is grief. There's grief there. There's grief in losing an artist who you have admired and who is maybe formative for you and whose music is nostalgic and reminds you of moments in your life that you want to look at with fondness, and to have to come to terms with that artist is not somebody that you want to support. And then to recognize the grief that a politician that you supported is not the person that you thought that they were, or that you wanted them to be. And the way that the grief through line has carried through this whole episode, I think we have to acknowledge that grief, and then in your rage to in the pipeline,
up to positive action.
Yes,
5-step method.
We're in the grief moment of, we have to acknowledge it and move through it and turn it into positive action. And I like to think that that's what you and I are doing here.
This is what we're doing. And I'm glad that you mentioned grief, because until we actually accept who we are as a country, where we're at, we can't get past this moment. We'll just be in this kind of vicious cycle. And unfortunately, there's a lot of grief in recognizing that there's a tad bit of racism and it's affecting us all, just a tad bit. How could you not have it in a country that was built on enslaving people and stealing land? Stealing land. And I see it even with progressives saying, this is not who we are. This is not who we are as a country. And I think that's the wrong thing to say. I think it is. This is who we are as a country, and we're working on it. Like, we're on that chapter of our self-help journey where we're acknowledging who we are, and we're working on it, and we're having the uncomfortable conversations about race, about trauma, about sexual assault and rape, and elevating mediocre people. We're having all of those conversations. And yeah, you and I, we're doing our part in normalizing what that looks like. So I'm going to patting us on the back.
I like it. Well, and we're going to keep having these conversations, but in a slightly different time.
Yes, we are. Different time.
Week. And then we're also going to start trying to do Substack specific lives so that we can reach different audiences at different times. But we just love these conversations. So Monday morning. We will be, so we just have to have the weekend. I'm sure we're going to have so much to talk about.
There's always something, always so much happens. And I think Monday is a better day to do it because we can kind of set our intentions for the week and set who we want to be and try to keep a baseline for ourselves. And then we can kind of catch up later in the week on a Wednesday or Thursday when there will assuredly be some sort of breaking news or a Love Island episode that we need to talk about. I don't know. I want to see the Bell Hooks critique of, I need her to come back on this planet just so she can give her opinion on Love Island. I need that.
I love it. Yes.
All right, guys. We will see you on Monday. In the meantime, I did want to address that to please keep Venezuela continuously. I feel like there's been so much going on in the world. We're like at a polycrisis sort of situation where it's almost impossible to keep track of the extrajudicial ICE killings that are happening. And so we're only, the death toll, as you can see, is up to almost 4,000. And there are still many, many people missing. And so if you can, and you have the ability to, please donate to the organizations that are helping on the ground as those rescue efforts continue. So I should say not rescue at this, though they have been finding people way past the sort of 72 hours that they anticipated they'd find life. They are finding people. I think now at this point it is just recovery.
Yeah. Which is a very important step
as well.
Healing.
Yes. People need to be able to bury their loved ones.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So with that, breath, we made it through another week, and we will see all of you on Monday.
And we're gonna find a little joy this weekend wherever we can. We're gonna try just like a little dose of sunshine. Just a little.
I feel like when I say I want to find joy, the universe is like, fuck you. And then just something crazy happens in the world
then we nap.
We nap.
We have to
put your phones down. Don't look at the world, touch grass, hug each other, and
text your friends.
Yeah.
I'll text you this weekend.
Yes. I will text you back. Great.
I love you.
Bye.